Meghan Markle has faced criticism before, but nothing like this. A man dubbed the living Nostradamus just made a shocking prediction about her, and it's bad. Not tabloid drama, not royal gossip, something deeper and far more personal. He says the real storm hasn't even started yet, and what's coming could change everything we thought we knew about her. From cryptic warnings to eerie timing, his words are gaining attention for a reason. Is this just another conspiracy? Or has Meghan stepped into something she can't control? You'll want to see what Athos Salomé is predicting, because if he's right, it's already begun. The calm before the fire. Meghan Markle has been busy, and on the surface, it looks like everything is falling into place. Her lifestyle brand, as ever, sold out in under an hour when it launched, prompting headlines that painted her as a savvy entrepreneur stepping boldly into her next act. She teased a restock, promising sweet things and delicious surprises. Social media buzzed. Her Netflix series with Love, Meghan, a glossy blend of cooking, gardening, and California living, dropped its first season this spring. A second season is already filmed and expected in the fall. Publicity machines are spinning again, and she seems confident, maybe even unstoppable. She's also found her voice in podcasting. Her new show, Confessions of a Female Founder, now streams weekly. It's polished, insightful, targeted at women trying to build something from scratch. It's part of a broader strategy to rebuild her brand, not as a royal, but as a modern media figure on her own terms. Her recent interview on Aspire with Emma Grede made headlines when she said, "I wish people would just tell the truth." She wasn't vague, she meant the truth about her. She touched on public perception. She even addressed the now infamous baby mama dance video, footage of her dancing in the hospital room while in labor with Lilibet, which she reposted for her daughter's 4th birthday. She clarified the video wasn't recent, wasn't staged, wasn't fake. That was 4 years ago, she said, adding, "You have to be authentic." Some people applauded, others weren't buying it. But Meghan didn't back down. At the same time, Prince Harry has remained low-key. Their children, Archie and Lilibet, are growing up largely out of the spotlight. They did not attend Trooping the Colour this year, again. Meghan didn't show up at any royal engagements, and when she sent a private note that reportedly included the HRH title, it sparked a fresh round of tension. Prince William is now said to be considering whether to formally strip her children of their titles. In Montecito, however, the world looks quieter, controlled, on message. Meghan seems to be finding her rhythm again, and for the casual observer, that's the story. Another woman rising above criticism. Another media comeback. But not everyone is buying the surface story. There are people watching from a different angle. People who claim to see beneath the headlines and beyond the PR spin. One of those people is Athos Salomé. He's been called the living Nostradamus, a modern-day seer known for bold predictions. He claims to have foreseen the pandemic. He says he felt the energy shift before Queen Elizabeth II passed. He's warned about climate events, celebrity implosions, and cyber breakdowns before they made the news. Some of it sounds wild. Some of it has been eerily close to reality. And now his attention is fixed on Meghan. Quietly, almost cryptically, he's been talking about her. Not in tabloids, not with clickbait, but in interviews, podcasts, and social commentary. And what he's saying isn't hopeful. It isn't flattering. It isn't vague. It's a warning. He doesn't talk about her brand in marketing terms. He talks about it as energy. He doesn't predict a PR issue. He predicts a karmic shift. And he doesn't say she's on a difficult journey. He says she's headed for something worse than what's already happened. According to him, Meghan Markle's storm hasn't arrived yet. The calm we're seeing now, that's the part that scares him the most. And if he's right, then the public is watching the start of something. Not the comeback, but the unraveling. The part of the story no one expects until it's already too late. The man behind the warnings. Before anyone called him the living Nostradamus, Athos Salomé was just a Brazilian paranormal investigator with a knack for making strange predictions. But that changed after 2020. When the pandemic hit, Clips surfaced of Athos claiming he had foreseen it, citing symbolic dates and energetic patterns no one had paid attention to before. Then came Queen Elizabeth's death. He claimed to have seen that coming too. After that, people started to listen differently. They didn't necessarily believe him, but they remembered his name. And now, that name keeps showing up next to Meghan Markle's. Athos doesn't predict in vague poetry or cloaked metaphors. His language is more psychological than mystical, more cause and effect than fate and prophecy. He speaks of energetic compatibility, karmic contracts, and fractures in frequency. It's not the kind of stuff you see on cable news, but it's caught fire online, especially in the last year, because what he's been saying lately is far more specific and a lot more unsettling. He's spoken openly about Meghan and Harry's relationship, stating that by 2026 or 2027, they'll go through what he called a severe emotional distancing, not necessarily a divorce, but a break in unity. He said their paths will pull in opposite directions, professionally and spiritually, with external pressures pushing them further apart. Some might call that a guess. Others look at their current public appearances, often separate, rarely spontaneous, and wonder if he's already being proven right. Athos also warned that Meghan's brand would shine briefly, but lose its foundation. When As Ever sold out its first collection, critics dismissed his claim. But then the backlash started. The delivery room video, the accusations of inauthenticity, the whispers about whether the brand could survive more than a few months of media scrutiny. And then came the staff exits. 4 team members left their communications office within weeks. Once again, Athos had warned of instability, this time inside the house. But his focus hasn't just been on her business or her marriage. It's been on something deeper. He described Meghan as someone living between narratives, unable to control the version of herself that the world sees. He said she was at risk of identity collapse, a moment when all the roles she's tried to hold together start pulling against one another. Royal, actress, activist, brand, mother, icon victim. Each one telling a different story, each one demanding its own kind of truth. Athos has predicted that Meghan will soon face a moment where those identities stop being tools and start being traps, where every version of her is questioned, re-examined, or outright rejected by the very audience she once captivated. He doesn't give dates. He rarely gives names. But this time, he's speaking with more urgency than usual, not warning of what might come, but what will come. And he's hinted that the moment is getting closer. In an interview earlier this year, he said that Meghan is walking toward a karmic storm. When asked what that meant, he replied, "She's not at the center of it yet, but she will be. What's coming is worse." It's the kind of statement that doesn't hit you right away, but then you remember the trajectory, the rise, the exit, the brand, the tension with the royals, the headlines, the podcast confessions, the viral videos, the sudden silence. It all starts to feel like a build-up to something else, something bigger. Athos isn't claiming to be right. He doesn't need to. His predictions float in that space between certainty and doubt. That's where he lives. But when he speaks about Meghan, there's no hesitation in his voice. He doesn't say it might get bad. He says it's going to get bad. And if he's seeing what he thinks he's seeing, then we haven't reached the turning point yet. We're still just circling it. The first warnings nobody took seriously. When Athos Salomé first spoke about Meghan Markle's future, it didn't make headlines. His words were buried under more sensational predictions about AI spirals, asteroid threats, and the collapse of world systems. But he kept circling back to her, quietly, deliberately. His tone changed. The predictions got more pointed, and the timeline got shorter. In early interviews, Athos warned that Meghan's professional ventures would see progressive deterioration. He described it like a house with flashy decor but no solid foundation. He said it might sparkle on launch day, but cracks would appear fast. At the time, that sounded premature. As Ever was just a trademark filing. But fast forward to today, and the scenario looks familiar. The brand launched with buzz, sold out quickly, and then immediately faced public skepticism. Accusations of superficiality, comments about her being out of touch. Even fashion critics weighed in, calling the branding visually nice, but lacking long-term resonance. Then there was the delivery room video. What was meant to be a celebratory moment turned controversial overnight. People accused her of staging it, of using her child's birth to manufacture a relatable narrative. Meghan clarified that it was a private moment from 4 years ago, reposted in love, but the damage was done. Online reactions split fast. Some users celebrated her confidence, others mocked it mercilessly. Athos had spoken of waves of conflict that would arise when Meghan tried to merge her private life and public image too closely. And suddenly, here it was, right on cue. Another warning came in the form of his relationship forecast. Athos predicted that by 2026 to 2027, Meghan and Harry would face not just strain, but an energetic disconnect. Not a divorce, something harder to define. A drift. He called it emotional distancing, fueled by conflicting purposes. Meghan leaning into business, visibility, reinvention. Harry stepping further away. The idea felt speculative, until their appearances started to reflect it. She promoted as ever and podcasted solo. He made low-key visits and worked on charity causes separately. They looked united in curated photos, but rarely spoke together in public. And when staff began exiting their communications office, the speculation around internal discord only deepened. Still, these weren't viral red flags. They were subtle shifts, the kind most people don't notice until after the explosion. Athos had also warned that Meghan would retreat in 2026, not because she wanted to, but because the public pressure would force her hand. He described it as a necessary absence, when she would disappear from the spotlight to survive it. This retreat, he said, wouldn't be framed as failure. It would be framed as self-preservation. A reset, an emotional and spiritual withdrawal. So far, that hasn't happened. But the signs are beginning to point that way. She's slowing public appearances, relying more on pre-recorded content and controlled releases. Even her podcast has toned down personal disclosures after early episodes drew more headlines than praise. To most people, none of this looks catastrophic. A brand launch with mixed reactions, a viral video that sparked some backlash, a few staff leaving. But Athos has always pointed out that storms don't begin with thunder. They begin with a stillness that feels too calm, patterns that repeat quietly, little details that seem harmless, until they stack up and collapse all at once. And he keeps repeating one thing about Meghan's trajectory. The hardest chapter is still unwritten. So when the press focuses on her fashion, her family moments, or her latest product release, Athos pays attention to the things no one else is watching. The changes in tone, the absences, the energy of public sentiment shifting slowly but surely. He doesn't speak like someone waiting for scandal. He speaks like someone who's already seen how the next act plays out. And what he's seen, he says, isn't just a bump in the road. It's a reckoning. A shocking prediction. Until now, Athos Salomé's warnings about Meghan Markle had felt more like quiet cautions than thunderclaps. His tone was measured, his phrasing vague enough to leave room for interpretation. But all of that changed earlier this year. What's coming is worse. The phrase landed like a cold slap. And it didn't come from a gossip columnist or a YouTube commentator. It came from the man they call the living Nostradamus, the same man who claimed to foresee the pandemic, who mentioned the Queen's passing long before her health declined, a figure some mock, others follow religiously, and many can't quite ignore. Before he spoke those words, he described what he believed was coming in chilling detail. He said Meghan's current chapter, her lifestyle brand launch, her podcast resurgence, her Netflix show, is not the beginning of a reinvention. It's the last act before something breaks. He spoke of betrayal, of secrets being aired not by tabloids, but by people from within. Former friends, staff, individuals who, according to him, hold keys they haven't used yet. He said her public image has become too fragmented to sustain. Too many versions, too many stories. And once those versions begin to clash, once the people who know what really happened start to speak, there won't be room for all of them to survive. It's clear now. Living Nostradamus made a shocking prediction about Meghan Markle, and it's bad. Not just scandal bad, not just headline bad, legacy altering. Salomé didn't offer comfort or conditions. He didn't say there was still time to stop it. He spoke as if it had already begun. He said this unraveling would start slowly, under the surface. Then, in his words, the silence will be louder than the noise. He sees 2026 not as a recovery year, but a disappearance, a full retreat from the public. No new podcast episodes, no interviews. A pause so total it won't feel like a break. It'll feel like a vanishing. And if you think this sounds like the usual dramatic fear-mongering, it's worth noting how specific his language has been compared to his past predictions. He didn't just warn of emotional distance between Meghan and Harry. He predicted exact time frames. He described a collapse in the energetic structure of their public life. He framed it not as failure, but as a reckoning. This isn't a hit job. Salomé doesn't attack Meghan personally. In fact, he has said she has the tools to survive it, but not in the form she currently inhabits. According to him, the Meghan we know right now may not exist in the same way by the time this is over. That's why this moment matters. Because if he's right, then the headlines we're seeing today, the sold-out products, the cheerful podcasts, the polished Instagram videos, aren't signs of a comeback. They're the final snapshots before the shutter jams. And when he says, "What's coming is worse," he's not predicting a scandal. He's predicting a transformation, one that begins with collapse. The fallout nobody is talking about. The moment Athos Salomé said what's coming is worse, it didn't immediately set off alarms. There were no trending hashtags, no primetime debates, no swift reactions from Meghan's team. But that's the thing about fallout. It doesn't always come with explosions. Sometimes it arrives in fragments. Quiet, uneasy, already unfolding before anyone realizes it's begun. In Meghan's world, that quiet unraveling has started to show. Just weeks after her brand as ever launched to sold-out excitement, headlines shifted tone. Critics began asking how sustainable it really was. Was it a passion project or another image exercise? Social media users who once praised the launch were now questioning the messaging. People picked apart the branding, the rollout, the deeper purpose, or lack of one. Then came the viral resurfacing of the delivery room video. What should have been a lighthearted, personal throwback for Lilibet's birthday turned sour almost instantly. Accusations ranged from cringe to completely staged. A few fringe voices even spun up conspiracy theories about Meghan faking her pregnancy, dusting off claims that had long been dismissed. In response, Meghan tried to set the record straight, explaining it was filmed 4 years ago, not recently, and posted out of joy. But the damage was already done. Her attempt to control the narrative once again sparked more division than support. Around the same time, a quieter storm was brewing inside the Sussex camp. 4 members of Harry and Meghan's communications staff exited in rapid succession. No public drama, just a press release and silence. For most public figures, that might go unnoticed. But for a couple as carefully curated as Harry and Meghan, it raised questions. Why now? And why so many at once? Was it creative differences, burnout, or something more internal? Theories quickly spread, with some sources hinting at tension behind the scenes and an urgency to reset how Meghan's public image is being handled. It's here that Athos Salomé's prediction begins to feel less like a future possibility and more like a present reality. He warned of fractures from within, voices from Meghan's inner circle coming forward with truths that can't be reshaped. And while no tell-all has surfaced yet, the recent staff exits and shifting tone around her brand suggests something is stirring behind the curtain. Then, there's the matter of titles. Meghan's decision to use HRH on a private note reignited an ongoing debate. Though she and Harry agreed not to use the His/Her Royal Highness styling after stepping down, the appearance of those initials sent a signal, intentional or not. Some royal insiders saw it as defiance. Others called it a misstep. But the real consequence may come from within the palace itself. Reports now suggest Prince William is seriously considering removing the royal titles from Archie and Lilibet. If that happens, it would be more than symbolic. It would be a public stripping of legacy, and another blow to the carefully preserved image Meghan has worked so hard to reframe. None of this is explosive on its own, but together, these developments tell a different story. They hint at a slow decline, a buildup of tension and fatigue, not just from the public, but possibly from within Meghan's own circle. And that's exactly how Salomé described it. Not a dramatic scandal, a slow collapse, one decision, one misread moment, one internal shift at a time. The most alarming part? Meghan may still believe she has control over the narrative. But if Salomé's right, the story is no longer hers to tell. It's already being written by the public, by former allies, maybe even by her own silence. And while it hasn't fully broken yet, the fallout has begun. You just have to know where to look. Can she reinvent herself again? Meghan Markle has reinvented herself before. From actress to duchess, from royal to media mogul, she's shifted roles with remarkable speed, always staying a step ahead of whatever label the world tried to put on her. But this time, the question feels heavier. Not just whether she can do it again, but whether the version that comes next will still hold the power to shape how people see her. Athos Salomé didn't completely close the door. In fact, his tone shifted slightly when asked what might follow after the storm. He didn't speak of Meghan's downfall as permanent. He called it a collapse, but one that could clear the way for something real if she was willing to rebuild from the inside out. According to him, the path forward doesn't involve product launches or streaming deals. It involves silence, retreat, and something she hasn't leaned into yet: surrender. That's what he sees in 2026. A year not of reinvention, but of disappearance. A pause that isn't performative. No podcasts, no lifestyle content, no perfectly lit photos from Montecito. Just absence. And in that space, Athos says, the opportunity for transformation could appear, but only if she lets go of control. He suggests that by 2027, Meghan could re-emerge, but not in the way the public expects. Not as a brand, but as a voice. A producer, maybe. A storyteller of other people's pain. Someone who uses the lessons from her own unraveling to build something less polished, more grounded. There are whispers already. Quiet meetings about a documentary tied to women's mental health. A possible grassroots initiative in South Asia. A return to causes that don't require spotlight, just presence. But there's a condition buried in all this. She has to stop trying to protect the image. Athos hinted that as long as Meghan clings to the versions of herself she's worked so hard to craft, the fallout will keep chasing her. The reckoning he spoke of wasn't about the public turning on her. It was about something deeper, her own resistance to letting the facade drop. And that's the real crossroads now. Because reinvention only works when it comes from necessity, not strategy. Meghan has shown the world what she wants them to see. Now the world is waiting to see who she really is without the frame, the filter, the formatting. Can she reinvent herself again? Maybe. But this time, she may have to let the reinvention happen without her driving it. Because when the silence comes, as Athos predicts, and the noise fades, what's left won't be a headline. It'll be the first real moment in a long time where Meghan Markle has nothing to sell, nothing to defend, and everything to decide. What do you think about these predictions? Let us know in the comments.